Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another Tools for Perseverance. This is Dr. Jessica Wright, and I'm going to be talking today about some ways that nature can actually benefit our mental and physical health. And I'm going to be giving you a summary of some of the presentations that were given at the Center for Health and Nature Symposium in 2019. If you don't know, the Center for Health and Nature is a really remarkable and unique organization that's actually a collaborative between Texan by Nature, Texas A&M, and Houston Methodist that studies how nature influences our physical and mental and spiritual health. And if you don't know them already, I highly encourage you to get to know them. I was delighted to participate in this symposium and get to know some of the content. So here are a couple of things that I found I thought might be beneficial to helping us persevere through these difficult times. So first off was a presentation by Dr. Perry Heisted from Oregon State University, and he talked about urban nature and health. So as more and more humans get to live in urban areas instead of rural areas, there is a huge field of study of how urban nature actually has an impact on humans. If you have access to nature, so nature being trees, parks, streams, water features, and anything else that would be a naturally occurring environment, it actually has reduced exposure to harm. So he talked a lot about how trees provide a natural barrier to pollution. And as Houston, is a city that is affected greatly by the pollution of the plants that are just, on one side of our city, we want to always ensure that we're mitigating that by, surrounding ourselves with plants in order to help mitigate the effects of the pollution. Obviously, people who have nature near them, they have increased physical activity because you want to go outside, you want to go walking if there are natural elements around you, if you have a park near you. There's also psychosocial influences. So going for a walk in a public park, in a park that's accessible to everyone, enables you to have a sense of community and a sense of connectedness with other humans. You're more likely to meet up with other people. You're more likely to see other people and feel like you're part of a community. And there's some really interesting psychological influences of having nature nearby, whether it's nature you can see out your window or nature that you can experience in some way during your day. It actually has a decrease in depression and anxiety. So there was a really interesting study that they did on the metrics of green in an area. And what they said was that exposure to green, so grass and bushes and trees and plants of all kinds, is associated with an increase in birth weight by 20 grams. And you'll remember that birth weight is actually, one of the basic metrics that we use to decide how healthy a population is. And so a higher birth weight is a good thing. So then the other element to it is, are you close enough? Can you walk to a park within 10 minutes? It actually has decreased mortality, so you're less likely to die if you live within 10 minutes of a park, so decreased mortality rates if you are within walking distance to a park. And the way that they did this population level study was fascinating by studying, mapping out the green spaces, and then using public health data of people in those spaces. So it's a little cut off at the bottom, but a 9% increase in green space is equal to a 10% increase in life expectancy. So if you can surround yourself with plants and be fortunate enough to live in an area that has exposure to plants, then it is something that greatly benefits your life expectancy. And there's really interesting green is really a really beneficial thing, but what they found was that water proximity is kind of a marker for socioeconomic status. So people that actually live close to water are highly correlated to be those individuals that are of a higher socioeconomic status. They have more money. It costs more to live on a lakeside or an oceanfront property than it does to live inland. And so that is a really interesting influencer in the data when they're trying to do health data related to exposure to water. But they do know that exposure to water and water features is actually something that has a lot of the same benefits as exposure to green and plants. So it does a lot to our mental and physical health to expose to green. There's one other study that I want to share with you. So there's one other study I want to share with you from that was presented at the Center for Nature and Health Symposium in 2019. And that is a really fascinating study by Dr. Aruni Bhatnagar, who is a distinguished scholar at the University of Louisville. And Dr. Bhatnagar's study is really, a fascinating study of how nature impacts our, short and long-term health. So what he did was he looked a lot at cardiovascular disease. So you'll see the heart in the middle of the tree trunk roots. I really enjoyed his presentation. He described how more sun exposure leads to less heart disease. And he thinks that it has something to do with the cycles of day and night. And how being exposed to the sun actually helps to improve our heart disease by keeping that rhythm within us to make sure that we know when it is day and when it is night. And he also found that those that live closer to the equator, again getting more sun, have less heart disease. He found that those who live close to a tree have less stress hormones in their urine. So if they have a tree outside their house, they end up having less stress hormones in their urine. So again, he talked about planting trees along the road to absorb pollution, and specifically those trees that are native to the area with the natural microorganisms that are so important to the area. And one of the things that he found in this really large study is that specifically trees that are planted along a highway to help absorb both the pollution and the noise, are actually able to reduce heart disease. Which is just really, really remarkable in the people who live on the other side of the highway. So the simple act of planting trees along a highway can have a great impact on the citizens who live next to that highway. And then he really wanted to know, does exposure to nature, how does it impact social cohesion and mental stress? And the good news is that it seems from his study that exposure to nature really does improve social cohesion. We feel more connected with each other. And that it also improves our mental stress. And so during this difficult, unprecedented time in our history, the question that I have for y'all is, how is it that you can spend time in nature this weekend, later today? How is it that you can go out into the world and spend time in nature? And then how can you continue to enjoy nature as the temperature rises? In Houston, today was almost 90 degrees outside. So just, thinking about how the temperature continues to increase. We all love walking when it's 60 degrees outside through the park. But how is it that you plan to continue enjoying nature as the temperature rises? So I can't wait to hear what you have to say in the chat box. And I hope that we're all able to get outside today.